Here at Random House and run my own Bookstagram account, Books with Taylor. For today's virtual event, we will be live with Monahan, who's the author of Don't Hate, Meditate. I'm going to quickly pin a comment here at the top and then we'll get Megan on with us. In the meantime, feel free to introduce yourselves, tell me where you're tuning in from, what you're reading, how your weekend went, and be sure to ask questions using the comment feature down at the bottom, and we'll get to some of those throughout the live. I'm pretty excited to learn more about meditation, and I hope that you guys are too. Let's see if we can get Megan up here. Should be just a second now. Again, if you have any questions about meditation, best practices, routines, feel free to drop those in the question box down at the comment there. And hopefully we'll have Megan with us soon. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Sorry, I was on the wrong account. I was looking at the wrong account to find you.
Totally fine. We're good. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is Taylor from Random House, live with Megan Monahan, and we're going to talk about her wonderful book, Don't Hate, Meditate.
You mean this book?
This book? There we go.
I just happen to have a coffee at all times on me.
3 in the purse at all times.
Yes, exactly.
Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about your book?
Oh my gosh, I would love to. So I really, part of me is sitting in quarantine thinking this is what I was doing last year because my book was due in about a month, and I was like, hold up. And I was thinking like, how great would it be if I was writing a book right now? But I am so grateful that this book is already out for this moment, because this feels like the Super Bowl that I've been training for. And like, this is literally like the playbook. And I didn't realize at the time that I was writing it that this was going to be like the mindful playbook to get you through like quarantine and a pandemic. But this, like the tools that I talk about in this book, and certainly meditation as a greater tool, is the only reason that I'm not like losing my mind. Is the only reason that I'm like, that I feel pretty okay. And it's not because everything is okay in my life or in the world. Like, it's just because I have a certain degree of agency over my mind and where my attention is going. So I'm so thrilled to be able to talk about the book. And the book really, gives you a very relatable, very digestible entryway into how to meditate, which I think is still a very sort of misconceived practice. I think there are so many myths out there about what meditation is, and a lot of people have a hesitance to it because of that. So we break down in the book, me, myself, and I break down in the book really like the basics of how to meditate. And I promise you that everyone can meditate, even if you think you're the one person that has tried and just can't do it. Everyone can meditate. And then the other thing that was really important to me was to talk about and give people insight and tools into how their meditation is going to show up in their life. Because I feel like we have amazing books that talk about consciousness and meditation and the soul and all of that. Those are amazing. Those are like some of my teachers, right? Amazing offerings. And then we have the books that are like the sort of everyday tools and like tips and practices. And I felt like there was something missing, which is the bridge to both. So we talk about meditation in the book, and then throughout your reading journey, you go into 5 areas. I would call them like the spiritual filters that you can start to swipe and see your world through, which are being more present, being in acceptance, living with intention, non-judgment, and trust.
Well, that all sounds amazing.
And I will tell you that like right now, those are the 5 things that I'm leaning into more than anything else. And, every time you meditate or when you read this book and you do some of the practices in it, it's like doing mental weight training, spiritual weight training, and just like building these muscles that you can flex in moments like this.
Yes, well, I want to get back to some of the stuff that you said just now, but first, do you want to start with just some basic information, some basic tips for meditation? How can beginners get started?
Yeah. the number one thing that I still hear, and I have no idea who said it first, but the number one thing that I still hear is, I can't meditate, I have too many thoughts. I've tried to silence my mind, I've tried to clear my mind, I just can't do it. And I will always remind everyone and everyone right now that as long as you have a pulse, you're going to have thoughts. As long as your mind is working the way it's meant to, you're going to have thoughts. It's much less about trying to create a sense of stillness and just getting comfortable in witnessing rather than engaging with the activity. So I kind of liken it to, I've recently started using this this metaphor when you're out to eat. Side note, remember when we could go out to eat?
Yeah.
When we were able to go out to eat, I'm from New York too. So especially if you've ever been to New York and you're in one of those like very crowded restaurants where you have like 2 inches to the next table.
Right.
If you've ever had that experience, you will be in conversation with whoever you are at dinner with, and there will be someone next to you. And you can hear their conversation and you can maybe even understand everything they're saying. But you're not getting involved, more than likely, right? You're not joining their conversation. You're not like giving them advice on what they should do about the problem that they're talking about. You're just witnessing it. That's what you start to do with your thoughts in meditation. And oh, by the way, in general, you start to just create a little bit more space between you and your thoughts. So the dinner conversation that I give you when we meditate in my book is a mantra. So I have you silently repeat this mantra, which is a Sanskrit word that means mind vehicle. And in the book, I instruct you to meditate with the mantra Sohum. Sohum, which is S-O-H-U-M, distills down to the essence of I am. So you're not like worshiping me in Sanskrit, I promise. And that's going to be the next book.
Yeah.
And so you just sit in conversation with that one thought, Sohum. You're silently repeating it. And when you notice that you've gotten involved in the conversation next to you, when you started engaging with a sound that you hear or just another thought in your mind, you're just going to gently come back to that mantra. And you can set a timer and do that for 5 minutes. You can do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. The book has, meditations, and the audiobook that I recorded has all of the meditations. So if you want the easier route, you can do that and I'll guide you through all of those. But it's in that changing relationship and practicing that you then get to change your relationship outside of meditation with your mind. And all of a sudden you don't have to engage with every thought you have, right? You can say like, wow, that thought that I'm having is wildly unhelpful. Mm-hmm. It's the reminder that you don't have to believe every thought you have. In case everyone on here and that will be on here at some point didn't get that memo, you don't have to believe every thought you have.
That's such a great expression too.
Right? Like, thank God. You don't have to believe every thought you have. Yeah. But in order to not just become every thought or to unconsciously bring every thought in to become, one of the building blocks of your reality, you have to get better at noticing what the thoughts are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And as a reminder to everyone tuning in, this is Random House Live with Megan Monahan, and we're talking about meditation and specifically her book, Don't Hate, Meditate. Mm-hmm. So how important is routine when it comes to meditation? Should I do it every day for a certain amount of time in a certain room, or just whenever I feel the need to do it?
So it's definitely, one of my teachers, David G, talks about like crisis meditators, the people that are like chilling and we're fine, and then something goes wrong and you're all of a sudden like, namaste, what do we do? So if you can, it's not unlike anything. It's not unlike working out or eating clean or a gratitude practice, whatever it might be. If you can consistently do it, you won't get back to that place where it's like, oh shoot, I really need to sit down and do this because everything is falling apart. So I would say definitely make it a daily practice for the rest of your life, casual, no big deal. And if you can create a ritual around it, it will be easier to keep doing it. So, there are about 8 to 10 things that we all do every morning. None of us, regardless, well, now we're not running late because we don't go anywhere, but in general, right? There are things we do every day, and no matter what's happening, we still do those things. So if you can, I meditate usually first thing in the morning or very early on in that list of 8 to 10 things, right, that I'll do. And then same thing at the end of the day after the most productive part of my day. I will meditate. So usually that's between like 4 and 6. And if you can create a ritual, maybe there's a candle that you want to light every time. Maybe there's like a shawl that you want to use as your creating those things. Maybe there's a certain spot you sit in every day. There's a reason that when we go into the spa, no matter where it is, it's the same music, it's the same scent, it's the same like sequence of events, and it has a visceral impact on your experience because it's kind of programmed in as the context. So those things for sure help and can just make it feel a little more tangible, because meditation, I'm the first to admit, feels a lot like sitting and doing nothing until you start to see it like transform your life, right? But in the beginning, it feels a lot like sitting and doing nothing. So if you can create like some vibes or some accessories or like the gratitude journal or that whatever it might be that comes into play with your practice, then go for it. I always just say, don't become so locked in on that the moment that you don't have like the 18 different things that you meditate with, that you can't meditate, right? So don't become inhibited by it, but yeah, make it like a ritual, make it fun for yourself.
So let's say I've been meditating every day in a routine for a year. What kind of benefits and changes might I be experiencing?
Yeah. So I like to think of meditation. There's a whole class of herbs now called adaptogens. They're like very big in like wellness. And it's these herbs that kind of read what your body needs. And that's really what I think of meditation as. So if you are someone, I started meditating purely for stress. I didn't start meditating 12 years ago because I wanted to like connect with who I really am and find my purpose and discover why I'm here. I didn't have any like motivation to do those things, whether that says something good or bad about me. It was purely just because my body was so stressed and was breaking down because of stress in my life. For context, I used to work in the music industry and I'm from New York, which is now why I need to learn how to meditate and become a meditation teacher for a living. But the benefits that I saw were stress related. So I stopped feeling so reactive. I stopped feeling so future paced. One of the things that we're really bad at is monitoring how often we go into what I call in the book future land. And there's a really great in the book like little diagram where it's like, where are you? Are you in this present moment? And it's like, no. And then it asks you the next question, right? So you follow that. But we're not great at that. So I stopped doing that. I was much more inherently able to be present in my time and in my moment. That was one of the first things I saw. I didn't have as much road rage. Not proud of that, but I was less irritable. I was less reactive there. As time progressed, other benefits started to show up that I hadn't even realized needed some love. It really can change the way that you see your world. It really can change your set point.
Yeah, and I love that idea of finding a way to really stay in the present moment and concentrate on that, when especially right now when the future is scary and very uncertain, and finding a way to kind of enjoy the present, I'm sure is such a useful tool right now, especially.
Yeah, well, we just go to the future in ways that are not helpful and in some ways that are just completely destructive for us. I'm not the person that is like wandering from moment to moment, being like, I don't know, we'll see what shows up in the future. And I get it. I go to the future. I understand, preparing and anticipating and setting yourself up for success. But so often we leave this present moment, which is where all of our power is, and we go to imaginary lands called what already happened and what I'm imagining might happen. And most of the time that we go to those places, we're not like, I'm having a bad day. Let me just go back into a past where I was happy and just sit there for a minute, right? Usually we go back and we think about what didn't go well or what I could have done differently or what if that had been different, or right? Same thing with the future. I don't know anyone that has anxiety about how great everything is going to work out. God, what am I going to do with all of that money? I'm terrible with money. What am I going to do? How am I going to manage it? How do I find a financial advisor that's going to be able to handle all of the abundance coming my way? Right? Nobody's doing that. We anticipate like the worst possible scenario and sit there as if it were real and react to it and have feelings about it, unhelpful. or we do that in the past. And so, you know, when you meditate, you'll all of a sudden be able to notice where your mind is. And so when you go to future land and you start putting energy into things that you don't want and in ways that aren't helping you like prepare or set yourself up for success, you'll be able to notice that you're there. And even when you do allow yourself to indulge in that for a minute, I find that I can only handle myself being a ridiculous person for so long before I'm like, you need to rein it in because this isn't you and you know what you're doing right now, right? So, especially right now, like the ability to just be present in what is and not like fight with reality, not anticipate things that may never happen, right? In ways that are going to rob you of any peace that you can find in this moment. It's just it's not a good look. It's not a good look, you guys. Don't do it. It's a huge game changer.
Great. Well, a quick reminder for those of you who are just tuning in, this is Random House live with Megan Monahan. We're talking about her book, Don't Hate, Meditate.
This book.
Yes. I'm going to give you a couple quick audience questions that I've seen here.
Yeah.
Do you have any meditation podcasts or apps that you recommend for anyone or for busy moms in particular?
Oh gosh, busy moms. Like shout out to all the parents right now, like that became teachers overnight. I have so much love and compassion for you. There are a lot of, a friend of mine, Lori Bregman, has some great resources. She wrote a book, I think it was called The Mindful Mom to Be. She has some great mindfulness things. I mean, any of this is going to be relevant to you, even if you're not a mom, meditation in general. I don't know any specific podcasts. I would say buy my audiobook though, because like I said, at the end of it, all the meditations are there for you. And there's ones that cover every topic that we're kind of talking about right now. And it's just really fun to listen to. There's a lot of like humor and lightness and just like very tangible examples of how this stuff will show up in your life. There's a chapter called Spice Girls Wisdom. So if that's not a reason to listen to the book, I don't know what is. So yeah, I would check out Lori's stuff and I would get the audio version of mine so you can listen to it and have all of those meditations.
The Spice Girls meditation is definitely a good incentive.
Yeah, right? Spice Girls Wisdom. Aren't you dying to know how I made that like a deep spiritual concept? I mean, come on.
I love that. Here's another audience question. What was your writing process like and what was the time frame?
Oh man, the writing process. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a process? I'll do that next time for sure. I kind of manifested a book deal. So I really had this desire to share my work with more people. And I wasn't specifically like seeking a book or saying to myself, like, I want to write a book. That's what I want to do. I was just deeply connected to the desire to share this with as many people as possible. I ended up getting approached about writing a book from a publisher. That didn't work out, but it got me in a conversation with a book agent. And then I wrote a proposal and so on and so forth. So coming into this, I wasn't, you know, the writer that I am now. You know, obviously, I think I wrote a great book personally. I'm very biased, but I think it's a great book. So I definitely didn't have as much of a process as I do now, but I wrote the book in about 5.5 months, 6 months. And I had thoughts for how I was going to write it. I definitely thought I'm going to schedule how many pages I write a day. And not unlike this pandemic, I had a few really big things that were unavoidable come into my life, ways in which I really needed to show up for some people in my life that were dealing with like extreme life circumstances. And so I kept getting like really pulled out of writing, and I would be like in a groove for a while and then like something would happen and I'd have to drop everything and fly somewhere, and that was really interesting. And so my process was trust. My process was trusting that I would write it, that I would receive like whatever, not to get too like kooky, but whatever like words needed to come through me for all of you in this book. And I kept holding on to this vision that I could so clearly see where I had written the book. And because I could see that and feel that, I was able to move through any sense of like, how do I do this? And what if, you know, like that doubt that comes in of like, it's not working today, and what does that happen? So I would say, if you are a writer, then absolutely get really clear on why you want this. Because I didn't, like I said, it wasn't about I want a book. It was I want to share what's changed my life, what truly has transformed my life and made me and what I live in something that is very is really positive and really blissful and really aligned and right and intentional. And so I would say get really clear on why you want to write and why you're doing what you're doing, and then trust that it's happening, and just show up for it. Just like show up for the page, if that's not too corny.
We're so glad that you did write this book. It's such a helpful tool in general, and also especially right now. And that's actually our time for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. This is the book again.
It's wonderful.
Happy. She's also so cute, you guys. I would say that everyone did such a beautiful job with like the design of this book. It's so like there's like visual meditations in here that you can just stare at, even though there's no words. So so you guys definitely check it out, and feel free to connect with me on Instagram. You can spiritually slide into my DMs anytime if you have questions, if you want to connect, if you want me to send you a meditation. Don't hesitate to find me and reach out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Of course. Bye.